Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Beth Ruyak. I'm your mistress of ceremonies this morning. If you would all please stand now for the singing of the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming?
Ladies and gentlemen, family, friends, co-workers, welcome. This is the 21st annual Caltrans Workers Memorial. Many workers are very passionate about their work, and that was true of Gary Smith. Gary Smith, his family, his co-workers here today, he started with Caltrans back in 1978. He shared a lot of memories and taught a lot of people along the way. We remember Gary today. He lost his life on November 14th, 2010. Our hearts are heavy for his family, and our hearts go to the families of all the fallen workers honored today. On the average, in our country, nearly 2 work zone fatalities happen every day, and every 15 minutes, a work zone injury happens. So from our leadership, to each and every one of us that's traveling on the roadway and is behind the wheel every day, it is incumbent on us to remember to slow for the cone zone. But we thank you for the leadership that keeps reminding us. And with that, I would like to introduce the Director of the California Department of Transportation. If you would please give a welcome to Cindy McKim.
Thank you, Beth, and thank all of you for being with us today. It means a lot, not only to the Caltrans family members who are here, but to the broader Caltrans family that's also here in the audience. Highway construction and maintenance is one of the country's most dangerous jobs, and highway workers are also among the least recognized heroes. Every day, the brave men and women who work along our roadways display courage and ability. I wish each and every one of you could see the Caltrans that I see, could see the dedication of the Caltrans workers who are out there every day in very adverse conditions. They have dedicated their lives to improving mobility across California despite many challenges and doing often thankless tasks. Today is dedicated to honoring them and those who have died in the line of duty. A foot, an inch, a distraction, or a drink can make the difference of a life. Our highway workers know this going into the job, and those like Gary Smith never even question whether they'll respond to an emergency whenever they've been called. In nearly 33 years at Caltrans, his wife Sue says Gary never failed to respond to an emergency call out, even when he wasn't feeling his best. And the people of the state of California are in his debt, and we in Caltrans want to thank Gary, son and wife, for sharing him with us all those years. We still miss him. I am thankful for Gary and for the thousands of Caltrans people like him who work tirelessly along our highways every day to keep us safe. I am proud to be part of this organization, and I am grateful for those who are here today to honor our fallen heroes. I want to empower you and tell you how you can help stop highway worker fatalities. You can educate others by telling them of the dangers highway workers face, and you can drive safely, avoid distractions like using cell phones or texting while you drive, move over a lane when possible in accordance with the move over law, and most importantly, you can slow for the cone zone. Thank you.
As the Division Administrator for the Federal Highway Administration here in California, I want you to know that I am honored and I am very humbled to be able to be here with you today. We gathered today to pay our respects to our fallen friends, our co-workers, the family members, and loved ones who have paid the ultimate price in the line of duty. But let me assure everyone here, and especially the families, that we at the Federal Highway Administration, in conjunction with our partners, are committed every day to improve safety for our highway work zones, and especially for the workers who dedicate their lives day in and day out to make our roadways safer for all of us. Thank you very much, and drive safely.
On behalf of the 700,000 men and women who make their living in the construction industry in California, I am very honored to be here with you today and to participate in this event, and in particular to offer my deepest condolences to the families of our fallen workers. A highway work zone is very unforgiving. It doesn't care if your cell phone is ringing or if you have a text message dinging or waiting for you. If you are not paying full attention while you're driving through the work zone, it can be a very, very bad consequences and very unforgiving if you take your eyes off the road. We are in this together. And again, as Caltrans director said, and we join hands with you, slow for the work zone. Thank you so much.
We gather here today in honor of the fallen Caltrans workers to recognize the tragic losses their families have endured. These folks have put their lives on the lines every day in order to make the roads safer for the people that are traveling on our California highways. And International Union of Operating Engineers will continue to fight for our members to make our jobs safer. God bless you all and be safe out there. Thank you.
My name is Victor Diaz. I am a Caltrans highway maintenance worker like many of you. I was invited here to speak to you about what happened to me on New Year's Eve 2006. I was almost killed. I was almost killed by a car that sped out of control, slammed into the back of my truck, killing the driver, as well as pushing the barrier vehicle into me and California Highway Patrolman Michael Walker. Michael died instantly. A few months later, his widow sent me a letter, and I want to share this with you. My name is Michelle Walker. I am the wife of Lieutenant Mike Walker, who was killed New Year's Eve. Every single day, I think about the events of that night and the people who were involved. I appreciate you responding to help Mike and the sergeant who was working the original accident. In doing so, becoming a part of events. Hopefully, you have recovered from your injuries as well as from the trauma of being there. I expect that is a similar process for myself of losing my husband. Bit by bit, I must absorb the fact. I expect it will become a part of me, and I'll carry it forward for the rest of my life. Even in sadness and as pain of life goes on, and I believe each of us is meant to contribute something to the lives of people we met. It took me a long time to make sense of what happened. I felt completely unreal that my beloved Michael is gone. In fact, it still feels that way some days. After studying the accidents and asking dozens of questions, it seemed almost impossible that so many separate people could have suddenly come together in one time in one place for such a tragic outcome. While I now know and understand the hows and what happened, but the whys will remain a mystery forever. And a certain peace that it is not God's will that Mike survived, since Mike died in spite of having individual attention from medical staff. Simply, thanks is all I can say. but please let you know that it's coming from the bottom of my heart. Recently, I asked the Santa Cruz Highway Patrol officer, how are you doing? And I was informed that you had returned to Caltrans. Like CHP officers, Caltrans road workers should be publicly commended for their bravery and commitment to keeping the roadways safe and well maintained. Thank you for being a part of that and being there to assist the CHP officers when they need it, especially when it requires you to work on dangerous roadways in hazardous conditions. Thank you for allowing me to express myself. Blessings to you and your family, Michelle Walker. Adding to this, Mike had 2 children. Can you imagine having to explain New Year's Day, Daddy ain't coming home? I'm reading this letter to you and hope that nobody will ever have to read this one to your family or even write one. The CHP and I did everything right. We followed every procedures, and it was not enough to offset the wrong deeds that speeding drivers have done. Those drivers alone are responsible for these terrible events. I want to emphasize on training. I know that training that I received in class, I know it's boring or not, but I received it. It saved my life. I did the right thing. And after it, took all the right precautions. And I would like to think that if I'm injured, my coworkers are trained enough to do the proper procedures. Everyone, please, when you're out there, be careful. Thank you.
And now a very brave moment coming up. Gary Smith's wife, Sue Stryker Smith, is actually, I think, in a rare act of courage, willing to step forward today and speak to all of us. She's been amazing through the process of memorials and ceremonies in honoring her husband, Gary Smith, and this whole beloved row of people whose hearts are full for him today. I would like to please welcome her to the podium as she would like to address you about her dear husband, Gary Smith.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sue Stryker Smith, and I'm honored to be here with all the other family members and friends who have found themselves faced with the sudden loss of a loved one due to tragic and often preventable circumstances. I am the widow of Gary Smith, a dedicated 32-year employee of Caltrans. Gary loved his job, and I swear he bled Caltrans orange. Over the years, we spoke of these memorial events that were coming up, but never in my wildest dreams could I imagine the emotion of the survivors attending or envision myself attending for my own loss. I still can't wrap my head around it, but I do accept it. I hate the fact that we have to be here today. We should be out enjoying life with our loved ones, not memorializing them. On November 15, 2010, I was awakened in the middle of the night, of course, by a jarring phone call. I thought it was Gary calling to tell me he'd be home later than he thought. For earlier in the evening, he had received a call out for yet another double fatality on Highway 99. He dressed, he put on his green fluorescent coat. We said our I love yous, hugged each other, just like we'd done hundreds of times in the 25 years we'd been together. This call out was no different than any he'd ever made with his 32 years with the state. With a see you later, be careful, he was off. I went to bed knowing that he would be home later, as he always had. Prior to this night, when friends and family would ask me, "Oh, hi Sue, how are you doing? What's going on?" I'd often say, living the dream. But it was at 2:10 a.m. that November morning that my dream turned into a nightmare with the ring of that phone. It was Jeff Hemstock asking me to come to the front door. I stumbled out of bed, and as sleep cleared from my mind, it hit me. Something was terribly wrong. My heart sank as I opened my front door. There stood Jeff Hemstock, a chaplain, a Butte County Sheriff's officer, and Jody Jones. Jody was here to personally inform me that Gary had been struck and killed, allegedly by a drunk driver with 3 prior DUIs. I slumped and cried in Jeff's arms. One of my first thoughts was, my life is over. What am I going to do now? I kept repeating that over and over again throughout the night and into the next day. I was in shock. My second thought was, how am I going to call all our family and friends, and especially our son Gary, who lives in Washington State? It took me 4 hours to get the courage up to make that phone call, and when I did, it was the hardest thing I ever had to do. But Jeff took over. He personally made all of the arrangements for Gary and his girlfriend Elizabeth to fly from Seattle to Sacramento that very afternoon. And Jeff and Stan Richens and other Caltrans employees made all of the arrangements for Gary's cremation, and also handled all of the memorials that were held in Chico for Gary. My family and I continue to be amazed at how wonderful Caltrans has been to us, and you are a blessing. But blessings come in many names and forms, and it's at this moment I would like to pause and thank all of those that rushed to my side in the middle of the night and the days and months to follow to comfort and strengthen me. You know who you are, and you are blessings to me. But all through this devastating ordeal, I had always known that small miracles would come out of Gary's death, that he didn't die in vain. And people would say, how can you think that a miracle would happen out of something so tragic? I had to look deep, but I did find them, and they did materialize. The first miracle is the fact that Gary's death has taken a repeated DUI offender off the road, and if convicted of murder, into the prison system for life, where he cannot destroy another family, their hopes, their dreams. The second miracle may come out of the pending trial itself. I don't believe that DUIs, and particularly those that involve harm to another person, are accidents in the normal sense of the word. In the world that we live in, no person can rightfully claim to be unaware of the potentially catastrophic consequences of driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. In this particular case, the offender had previously signed 2 forms stating that if he drove drunk and killed someone, that he would be tried for murder. And that's implied malice. When you get into a car and drive drunk, it's no accident. So hopefully this case could send a stronger message to those who choose to drink and drive, and of the consequences that could follow. The third miracle appeared a couple of months ago. Gary had sleep apnea and had to use a CPAP machine and mask while he slept. After he passed, I saw the machine on the floor in the bedroom, and I thought, well, I can give that machine to my brother Bob, a respiratory therapist in home care, and maybe he could pass this gift on to someone. So I did. A few days later, he called and he was excited about he'd found somebody to pass Gary's gift to. As he was explaining to the young man where the gift came from and who it came from, the young man was taken aback by what he heard. He proceeded to tell Bob that his best friend was the father killed in the double fatality that Gary was working when he was hit and killed, and that he would have been in that car had he had not opted to ride with other friends. So Gary's gift is giving this young man a better quality of life and a much healthier life, and that is a miracle. This was a turning point for me. Witnessing these small miracles changed my outlook. I had two choices. I could curl up in a ball and die of a broken heart, crying all the time. No joy, no laughter, barely able to function. Or I could take baby steps to move forward, creating new chapters in my life, vowing to be the best person I could be, but never forgetting the wonderful, caring, loving husband, father, brother, son-in-law, brother-in-law, friend, and co-worker that Gary was. I chose the latter. We will love and miss him forever. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sue Stryker-Smith. What kind of a person endures the loss of a loved one and looks for miracles? What kind of a person writes a letter to Victor Diaz and says, each of us is meant to contribute something to the lives of people we meet? It's everyday people who are around us all the time, all the men and women here today.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see.